A multimillionaire CEO shut down an entire restaurant floor because one waitress refused to lower her eyes. You won't believe what happened next. The first time Mia Sullivan met Harrison Wolf, she didn't know who he was. She only knew that Table 14, the corner booth with the panoramic view of Chicago's glittering skyline, had been occupied by the same man for 3 nights in a row, and that every server who approached him returned to the kitchen looking like they'd just survived an interrogation. The Aurelius was the kind of restaurant where silverware cost more than her weekly paycheck, where reservations were made 6 months in advance, and where the sommelier spoke about wine the way priests spoke about God. It was early December, and the entire dining room had been transformed into something from a winter fairy tale. White birch branches wrapped in tiny lights, frosted glass ornaments catching the candlelight, the scent of pine and cinnamon mixing with truffle and butter. Outside, Chicago's first real snow of the season was beginning to fall, coating the streets in white silence. Mia had been in Chicago for exactly 2 weeks. 2 weeks since she'd packed everything she owned into her 10-year-old Honda and driven 9 hours through freezing rain to escape a life that had slowly been suffocating her. 2 weeks since she'd left behind the small Indiana town where everyone knew her story, her mistakes, her shame. 2 weeks since she'd promised herself that she would never again make herself small for someone else's comfort. He just snapped his fingers at Emily, Rachel whispered, gripping Mia's arm as they stood by the service station. Rachel had worked at the Aurelius for 3 years and had the quiet competence of someone who knew exactly how invisible she needed to be. Actual fingers, like she was a dog. Mia looked across the dining room. Table 14. The man sat alone, his posture so rigid it looked painful, his attention fixed on his phone with the kind of intensity that suggested the device might combust under his glare. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her car, and even from this distance, she could see the sharp lines of his jaw, the way his dark hair was cut with military precision, the cold silver of his watch catching the light. Who is he? You really don't know? Rachel's eyes widened. That's Harrison Wolf. Wolf Capital. He basically owns half the commercial real estate in Chicago, maybe a quarter of Manhattan too. Word is he's worth somewhere north of $3 billion. She said the number like describing a terminal illness. He comes in every December, same table, same order, same temperament. Temperament? He made Jennifer cry last year because she brought him still water instead of sparkling, made Marcus quit after he suggested a wine pairing. The managers comp his entire meal every time just to avoid incidents. Rachel shook her head. Just stay away from table 14. Let Thomas handle him. Thomas has developed immunity to verbal abuse. But Thomas was in the kitchen arguing with the sous chef about a risotto, and table 14's water glass was empty. Mia watched as Harrison Wolf raised his hand. Not rudely, not dramatically, just raised it with the absolute confidence of someone who had never been ignored in his life. And every server in the vicinity suddenly discovered urgent tasks in opposite directions. Something hot and familiar twisted in Mia's chest. She knew that gesture. The casual expectation of obedience. The assumption that other people existed as supporting characters in your story. She'd spent 3 years with someone who looked at her exactly the way Harrison Wolf was looking at the empty dining room right now. Like an inconvenience that should resolve itself. I'll take him his water, Mia said. Rachel grabbed her wrist. Mia, don't. Seriously, you're new. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Mia pulled free gently, grabbed a fresh bottle of sparkling water from the ice bath, and walked across the dining room with her chin up and her hands steady. The closer she got to table 14, the more details came into focus. Harrison Wolf was younger than she'd expected, mid-30s maybe, but he wore his wealth and power like armor, like something that had fused to his skin and couldn't be removed. His eyes were steel gray, the kind of gray that Chicago winters were made of, and when they lifted from his phone to land on her, Mia felt the temperature drop 5 degrees. Your water, sir. She set the bottle down with perhaps more force than strictly necessary. the glass meeting marble with a sharp crack that made his eyebrow twitch. "I didn't order a new bottle." "Your glass is empty. I assumed you'd want more." Mia met his gaze directly, refusing to do what every instinct and 3 years of survival training told her to do. Look down, make herself smaller, apologize for existing. Unless you prefer to sit with an empty glass as some kind of power statement. The silence that followed was so complete that Mia could hear the soft jazz playing through the restaurant's sound system, could hear the murmur of conversation from other tables, could hear her own heartbeat doing something arrhythmic and probably medically concerning. Harrison Wolfe stared at her. Just stared. His expression didn't change, didn't harden into anger, didn't soften into surprise, but something flickered behind those winter-gray eyes. Something that might have been curiosity, or might have been the prelude to her immediate termination. "What's your name?" His voice was exactly what she'd expected. Deep, controlled, with the kind of precise diction that came from expensive schools and generational wealth. "Mia." "Mia." He said it like he was testing the weight of it. "You're new. Is that a question or an observation?" "An observation. The other servers here have learned not to." He paused, and for just a second, something that might have been amusement crossed his face. "Volunteer for table 14. "Maybe they're just busy. It's a Friday night in December." Mia gestured to the full dining room, to the couples celebrating anniversaries and the business dinners and the families starting their holiday traditions. "Some of us actually have to work instead of sitting alone glaring at our phones." She realized what she'd said approximately half a second after the words left her mouth. Rachel was going to kill her. The manager was going to kill her. She was going to have to pack up her car and drive back to Indiana and admit that she couldn't make it even 2 weeks in the real world without self-destructing. But Harrison Wolfe didn't explode, didn't call for the manager, didn't do any of the things that $3 billion and absolute power typically did when challenged by someone making $11 an hour plus tips. He just looked at her with those winter eyes and said, very quietly, "Most people are afraid of me. Most people probably have something to lose." The words hung in the air between them, sharp and true and more honest than Mia had intended. She watched something shift in his expression, not softening exactly, but recalibrating, like he was seeing her for the first time as an actual person instead of a moving piece of furniture. "Your dinner will be out in approximately 8 minutes, Mia said, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline making her hands shake. "The kitchen's running slightly behind because Chef Antoine is arguing about truffle shavings with anyone who'll listen. If you need anything else, literally any other server would be delighted to help you." She turned to walk away. "Mia." She stopped, but didn't turn around. Couldn't turn around. If she turned around, she might see her own recklessness reflected in his face, might see the end of this job and this chance and this fragile new life she was trying to build. Same time tomorrow? There was something in his voice she couldn't identify. Not quite amusement. Not quite challenge. Something else entirely. "The restaurant is open every night, Mr. Wolfe. I'm sure table 14 will be available." This time she did walk away, and she didn't look back, even though she could feel his gaze on her back like winter sunlight through glass, cold and bright and impossible to ignore. Behind the kitchen doors, Rachel was waiting with an expression somewhere between horror and awe. You just talked to Harrison Wolfe like he was a normal person. Isn't he?" Mia grabbed a tray of artisan bread, her hands finally steady again. "No, he's really, really not." Rachel glanced through the circular window in the door, back toward table 14. "And he's still staring at you." Mia didn't look. Couldn't look, because somewhere in the last 5 minutes, something had shifted. Not in the restaurant, not in the soft jazz and candlelight and the smell of expensive wine, but in the careful walls she'd built around herself since leaving Indiana. Harrison Wolfe was dangerous. Not because he was cruel or violent or anything she'd survived before, but because when he looked at her, when he said her name with that careful precision, she'd felt something she'd promised herself she would never feel again. Seen. But before we step deeper into this story, tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from. Like this video so this story reaches more hearts, and subscribe to follow the next journeys. Because what happens next will change both of their lives forever. And in the reflection of the stainless steel refrigerator, with Chicago's winter lights burning beyond the windows, and the ghost of Christmas decorations making everything feel both magical and treacherous, Mia Sullivan realized that the next 3 weeks were going to change everything. She just didn't know if she'd survive it. Harrison Wolfe came back the next night. And the night after that. And the night after that. By the fourth evening, the other servers had stopped pretending they didn't notice. They watched from corners and behind service stations as Mia approached table 14 with the same straightforward efficiency she brought to every table. Watched as Harrison ordered his Manhattan. Perfect, with Luxardo cherries, never regular. Watched as something that looked almost like conversation happened in the space where previously there had only been orders and silence. The routine became familiar with surprising speed. Harrison would arrive at exactly 7:30 p.m., his Blacktown car pulling up to the curb with precision timing. He'd walk through the restaurant with that controlled grace of his, nodding curtly to the host, and settle into table 14 like a king taking his throne. And Mia would be there within 2 minutes, water bottle in hand, ready with some observation or comment that would make his mouth twitch in that almost smile that seemed to be the closest he came to genuine amusement. "You're playing with fire," Thomas warned on the 6th night as they folded napkins during the pre-service lull. Thomas was 53, had worked in restaurants since he was 16, and had the kind of weathered wisdom that came from watching 1,000 dramas unfold across white tablecloths. Men like Harrison Wolfe don't have conversations with people like us. They have transactions. "I'm just bringing him his dinner." Mia creased a swan fold with more precision than strictly necessary, the white linen crisp under her fingers. "You're doing more than that, and you know it." Thomas's voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. "I've seen this before. Rich man, pretty girl, the illusion that all those zeros in his bank account don't matter. It always ends the same way. And how's that? With someone getting hurt, and it's never the one with $3 billion. Mia wanted to argue, wanted to say that Thomas was wrong, that she was just being professional, that Harrison Wolfe was just another customer, but that would have been a lie, and she'd promised herself no more lies. The truth was that something had started on that first night, something quiet and dangerous and impossible to name. It lived in the way Harrison's shoulders would relax fractionally when she approached his table, in the way his winter gray eyes would track her movement across the dining room, in the way he'd started timing his arrivals to match her shifts. It lived in the conversations that had begun to stretch longer than strictly professional, about Chicago and its brutal winters, about the architecture visible from his corner table, about nothing and everything, and the strange intimacy that could develop between two people who only existed for each other in this one specific context. White tablecloths and candlelight and the safety of defined roles. "What do you do?" Harrison had asked 2 nights ago, setting down his Manhattan with that careful precision he brought to every gesture. "When you're not here." "I exist in a state of quantum uncertainty." Mia refilled his water glass, watching the bubbles rise and burst in the soft light. "Some theorists believe I simply cease to exist when I leave this building." The corner of his mouth had twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Quantum mechanics and philosophy. Do they teach that in service training? They teach it in the school of having too much time to think, and not enough money to do anything about it. She'd paused, then added with deliberate lightness, "I read a lot. Used to want to be a writer before I realized that's code for unemployed with pretensions." Something had shifted in his expression then. A softening around his eyes. A genuine curiosity that seemed at odds with the cold businessman everyone else saw. What kind of writer? The kind that notices things. The kind that thinks people are more interesting than plots. She'd shrugged, suddenly self-conscious under the weight of his attention. What about you, Mr. Wolf? What do you do when you're not sitting alone at table 14 making servers question their life choices? I make other people question their life choices in different contexts. He'd said it without humor, and Mia had realized with a strange jolt that he was being honest. Boardrooms mostly, occasionally courtrooms. Sounds lonely. It's efficient. That's not the same thing. He'd looked at her then, really looked at her, and Mia had felt something shift in her chest, something that felt dangerous and inevitable, and like the moment before falling. No, Harrison had said quietly. It's not. Outside the restaurant windows, Chicago had continued its evening rhythm. Cars passing in streams of red and white light. Pedestrians bundled against the December cold, their breath visible in small clouds. Holiday decorations strung between lampposts, making everything look like a movie set, designed to evoke nostalgia and hope. Now, on the 8th night, Mia pushed through the kitchen doors carrying Harrison's usual order. Wagyu ribeye, medium rare, no sauce, roasted Brussels sprouts with pancetta, and found table 14 empty. Her chest did something stupid and arrhythmic. The corner booth sat vacant, the place setting untouched, the view of Chicago's skyline continuing its glittering display for no one. She stood there holding the plates, feeling ridiculous for the disappointment flooding through her, for caring that a customer hadn't shown up. He called, Rachel said, appearing at her elbow with an expression that suggested she understood exactly what Mia was feeling. Canceled his reservation 15 minutes ago. Didn't say why. Okay. Mia set the plates down on the service station with hands that were absurdly unsteady. That's fine. He doesn't owe us an explanation. Mia. It's fine. She turned away before Rachel could see whatever expression was trying to arrange itself on her face. I have other tables. But for the rest of the night, her attention kept drifting to the corner booth, to the empty space where Harrison had become as much a part of the restaurant's rhythm as the jazz music and the candlelight. The absence felt physical, like missing a step in the dark. She told herself she was being ridiculous, that she barely knew him, that 8 nights of professional interaction didn't constitute a relationship, or even a friendship, that she was projecting meaning onto something that had always been transactional, just like Thomas had warned. But her chest still felt hollow, and she still caught herself looking toward the entrance every time the door opened, hoping to see his tall frame, his perfect suit, his winter gray eyes scanning the room for her. This is good, she told herself, as she smiled at table 7 and recommended the halibut and pretended her chest didn't ache. This is exactly what you need. Distance, perspective. A reminder that rich men who sit alone in expensive restaurants aren't heroes in romance novels. They're just lonely people with better furniture. She was halfway through her closing duties, polishing wine glasses until they caught the light like ice, when Ricardo, the host, appeared in the doorway. His usually composed expression carried something between surprise and uncertainty. Mia, there's someone here to see you. Her heart did something acrobatic. I'm working. He said it's important. Ricardo's voice dropped lower. It's Mr. Wolf. The wine glass in Mia's hand caught the light, refracting it into small rainbows across the white tablecloth. She set it down very carefully, feeling something like dread and anticipation braided together in her stomach. Tell him I'll be out in a minute. She took her time removing her apron, checking her reflection in the polished steel of the refrigerator, trying to calm the frantic beating of her heart. This meant nothing. He probably left something at his table. or wanted to discuss some detail about the restaurant, or had some perfectly reasonable, completely impersonal reason for showing up at 10:47 p.m. when he'd canceled his reservation hours ago. But when she walked into the front of house and saw Harrison Wolfe standing in the lobby, snow melting on the shoulders of his black wool coat, his hair slightly disheveled from the wind, his expression carrying something she'd never seen before. Uncertainty, vulnerability, something almost like fear. All her carefully constructed rationalization crumbled. "Mr. Wolfe," she was proud of how steady her voice came out. "Did you forget something?" "Yes." He seemed to consider his next words carefully, the way someone might consider jumping off a cliff. "I forgot to ask if you'd have dinner with me." The lobby was very quiet. Outside, Chicago sparkled under its blanket of December snow, the holiday lights making everything look like a dream someone hadn't quite woken from. An instrumental version of "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" played softly through hidden speakers, and Mia could hear her own heartbeat loud in her ears. "I'm working," Mia said, because it was the first coherent thought her brain could form. "I know, I meant..." He stopped, and for the first time since she'd met him, Harrison Wolfe looked genuinely off balance, like the careful control he maintained over every aspect of his life had momentarily slipped. "After your shift. Tomorrow. Somewhere that isn't here. Somewhere we can talk without you having to be professional, and I can stop pretending I come here for the food." "Why?" The question hung between them. Harrison's jaw tightened, and she watched him struggle with something. Pride, fear, the habit of keeping everything locked down and controlled. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. "Because I'd like to have a conversation with you where you're not required to be polite to me for economic reasons, where I can ask you questions about writing and quantum mechanics and what made you leave Indiana. Yes, I heard you mention it to Rachel last week, and you can tell me the truth instead of the customer service version." He paused. "And because for the first time in longer than I can remember, I actually want to spend time with someone, not network with them, not negotiate with them, just be with them." The honesty of it stole Mia's breath. She'd expected charm or manipulation or the smooth confidence of someone used to getting what they wanted. Instead, she got vulnerability. Raw and uncomfortable and completely genuine. "I get off at 11 tomorrow," she heard herself say. "Tomorrow night. I'll be here at 11. Harrison's voice carried relief and something else, something that sounded like hope. "Thank you, Mia. For..." He stopped, searching for words. "For treating me like a person instead of a bank account. I haven't. That hasn't happened in a long time." He turned to leave, then paused at the door, his hand on the handle. Snow continued to fall beyond the glass, Chicago transforming into something clean and new. "Mia?" "Yes?" "I'm glad you didn't lower your eyes that first night. I'm glad you refused to be afraid of me." Then he was gone, disappearing into the snowy Chicago night, and Mia stood in the empty lobby with her heart beating too fast, and Thomas's warning echoing in her head, and the absolute certainty that she was about to fall for someone she had no business falling for. "Oh no," Rachel said from behind her, reading her expression with the ease of someone who'd seen this story before. "Mia, no." "I know. He's going to break your heart." "I know. You're going to do it anyway, aren't you?" Mia looked out at the snow, at the city lights, at the ghost of where Harrison had been standing, at the possibility of something real in a life that had felt hollow for too long. "Yeah," she said softly. "I think I am." And in the window's reflection, she saw herself smile, reckless and terrified and already falling. Harrison took her to a place that didn't exist on any map Mia had ever seen. It wasn't a restaurant, at least not in the traditional sense. It was the rooftop of a building in the West Loop, transformed into something between a winter garden and a fever dream. String lights wrapped around bare branches, heat lamps glowing like small suns, and a single table set for two, with Chicago spread out beneath them like a circuit board of light and possibility. This is... Mia stopped, breathless. How did you even... I know the owner. Harrison pulled out her chair. He owes me favors. I called them all in for tonight. Must be nice, having the entire city in your debt. It's useful. He sat across from her, and without the armor of table 14, he looked younger. Tired, almost human. Not the same as nice. A server appeared with wine and appetizers, burrata with blood orange, seared scallops, then disappeared so completely it was like he'd never existed. So, Mia said, do you do this often? Private rooftop dinners with service workers? Never. Harrison's voice was quiet. I don't do this at all, any of this. What's this? Dinner with someone I actually want to talk to. He picked up his wine glass, then set it down without drinking. The last dinner I had that wasn't a business obligation was... I genuinely can't remember. That seems like a depressing way to live. It's efficient. You said that before, about your life. She studied him across the table, snow starting to fall in lazy spirals. That's not the same as good. No. His gray eyes caught the light. It's not. They talked for hours. Harrison told her about growing up in Greenwich, Connecticut, in a house with 17 rooms and no warmth, about a father who viewed love as weakness and business as war. He died 3 years ago, Harrison said, his voice carefully neutral. Heart attack at his desk. They found him slumped over a contract. The pen was still in his hand. I'm sorry. Don't be. We weren't close. We weren't anything. He paused. He once told me, I was 12, that the only acceptable emotion for a wolf was ambition. Everything else was weakness that needed to be eliminated. Mia recognized that particular brand of grief, not for what was lost, but for what had never existed. My dad left when I was 7, just walked out one Tuesday morning, left a note on the kitchen counter. I can't do this anymore. That was it. Jesus, Mia. My mom raised me and my brother in a town so small everyone knew everyone's business. She died 4 years ago. Cancer. She took a sip of wine. My brother got out smart. Portland. Scholarship, good job. I stayed because I thought I could make it work. With David, Harrison said quietly, understanding something she hadn't said. His name was David. We dated for 3 years. He wasn't cruel. Not in ways that would leave bruises. Just diminishing. That's not realistic, Mia. You're not talented enough. Aim lower. She forced herself to meet his eyes. I started believing him. That was the worst part. I made myself smaller until I barely recognized myself. Harrison's hands clenched. What changed? I found a letter he'd written but never sent, to his mother, about how I was fine for now, but not the kind of woman he'd actually marry. Not polished enough, not enough. She steadied her voice. I left that night, drove to Chicago and decided to figure out who I was when no one was telling me I wasn't enough. You are enough, Harrison said quietly, with conviction. More than enough. You don't know me. I know you had the courage to leave. I know you treat people with respect regardless of their bank account. I know you use sarcasm as armor because vulnerability is terrifying. His voice dropped. I know that when you smile, really smile, it's the first thing in years that's made me want to be someone better. The words hung between them, honest and dangerous. Harrison, I was engaged once. The words came out harsh. 5 years ago, Vanessa, She was perfect. Right family, right schools. Everyone said we were ideal, and I loved her, or thought I did. He stood abruptly, walking to the edge of the rooftop. Mia followed. Below them, Chicago pulsed with life. She was sleeping with my CFO, Daniel, for 8 months. I found out 3 weeks before the wedding, walked in on them in my office, in my chair. His voice was flat, where I'd been sitting 2 hours before, working on my rehearsal dinner speech about partnership and trust. Jesus, Harrison. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing she'd never loved me. She loved what I could provide, the lifestyle, the status. He turned to face her. And Daniel, my friend since college, just patient, playing the long game. What did you do? I destroyed him. Professionally, financially, socially. Made sure he'd never work in finance again. His voice was cold. It took 6 months, but I erased him completely. And Vanessa? Married a hedge fund manager 6 months later. Lives in the Hamptons. I see her at events. We don't speak. He looked at the city. After that, I built walls. Perfect, impenetrable walls. I became exactly what my father wanted. A machine that generates profit and eliminates inefficiencies, including emotional ones. Mia moved closer. That sounds exhausting. It's safe. Those aren't the same thing. Harrison turned to look at her, and in his eyes, she saw something terrifying. Hope. Why are you telling me this? Mia whispered. Because I'm about to kiss you, Harrison said quietly. And before I do, you need to understand that I'm probably going to ruin this. I'm going to be too closed off, too controlled, too damaged. I'm going to push you away even when I want to pull you closer. Mia kissed him. She didn't think, didn't calculate. She just rose on her toes, cupped his face in her cold hands, and kissed him while snow fell around them and the city blazed below. He froze for half a second. Then his arms came around her waist, pulling her closer, and he was kissing her back with desperate intensity. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Harrison rested his forehead against hers. I don't know how to do this, he said. Do what? Be with someone who sees me. The actual me. Not the net worth or reputation. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. I don't know how to be vulnerable without it being a weapon someone can use against me. Then we'll figure it out together. Mia's hand stayed on his face. I don't know how to do this either. How to want someone without making myself smaller. How to trust that you won't use my weaknesses against me. I won't. His arms tightened. I swear to God, Mia, I won't. I believe you. And terrifyingly, she did. They stood wrapped around each other while Chicago sparkled below. Then Harrison tensed. I need to tell you something, he said. Something that's going to complicate this. Mia's heart contracted. Okay. I'm planning to acquire the Aurelius, the entire restaurant group. 6 locations. The deal closes in 2 weeks. Mia pulled back. You're buying the restaurant where I work. Yes, which makes you my boss. Technically. He looked miserable. I wasn't planning to get involved in operations, but yes, on paper, I'll own the company that employs you. So everyone's going to think I'm sleeping with you to keep my job, or for money. I don't care what people think. You don't have to care. Mia stepped back. You're Harrison Wolf. You own half of Chicago. I'm a waitress making $11 an hour. When this falls apart, you'll still have your empire. I'll just be another girl who tried to sleep her way up. This isn't going to fall apart. You don't know that. You just told me you're planning to push me away. I'm trying to be honest. His voice held frustration. Isn't that what you want? I want... Mia stopped, forcing herself to breathe. I don't know what I want. 2 weeks ago, I was just trying to survive. Now I'm kissing a billionaire who's about to own my workplace, and I don't know if this is honest or stupid. It can be both. Despite everything, she almost smiled. That doesn't make it better. No. Harrison moved closer, careful not to touch her. But I'm asking you to try anyway. To give me a chance to prove I can be more than my past. Someone worthy of your trust. Snow was sticking now, transforming everything. Mia looked at Harrison, this complicated, damaged, vulnerable man, and felt herself at a crossroads. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. If you hurt me, I know. His voice was gentle. You'll survive it. You're stronger than I am. But I'm going to try not to. That's all I can promise, that I'll try. Mia weighed risk against possibility, safety against hope. Then she closed the distance, took his hand, and felt his fingers tighten like a lifeline. Okay, she said quietly. Let's try. And in the snow-silent night, with Chicago breathing beneath them, they stood hand in hand at the edge of something neither knew how to navigate. But for the first time in years, both were willing to try. The photograph appeared in the Chicago Tribune's business section on a Wednesday morning, 11 days after the rooftop dinner. Mia was standing in line at a coffee shop 3 blocks from her apartment when she saw it. Harrison at some charity gala, black tie perfection, and beside him a woman who looked like she'd been assembled by a committee devoted to genetic excellence. Blonde, elegant, draped in a dress that probably cost more than Mia's annual salary. The headline read, Wolf Capital CEO spotted with former fiancé at Children's Hospital benefit. Her hands went cold around her phone. She bought the coffee on autopilot, walked back to her studio apartment, and pulled up the article with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. Harrison Wolf, CEO of Wolf Capital, was seen in what appeared to be intimate conversation with Vanessa Ashworth Dane at last night's annual Children's Hospital Winter Gala. Ashworth Dane, who was engaged to Wolf 5 years ago before an abrupt split, recently divorced from hedge fund manager Gregory Dane. Sources close to both parties suggest that Wolf and Ashworth Dane have been in exploratory discussions about rekindling their relationship. They never had proper closure, one source stated. Now that Vanessa is single again, the timing might finally be right. There was another photo lower in the article, Harrison's hand on Vanessa's back, her laughing at something he'd said, both of them looking like they belonged in the same world of wealth and privilege and perfect teeth. Mia set the phone down very carefully. Her coffee tasted like ashes. He hadn't mentioned a gala, hadn't mentioned seeing Vanessa, hadn't mentioned anything except that he'd be tied up with work obligations for a few days. Her phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. We need to talk, not what it looks like. Please. She stared at the message until the screen went dark. That night at the Aurelius, table 14 remained empty. Mia moved through her shift in numb autopilot, smiling at customers, recommending specials, pretending her chest didn't feel like someone had reached inside and rearranged her organs. Rachel kept shooting her concerned glances, but had the wisdom not to ask questions. At 9:47 p.m., Ricardo appeared in the kitchen doorway. Mia, there's someone. Tell him I'm working. He says it's urgent. I don't care. She grabbed a tray of desserts. Tell Mr. Wolf that if he'd like to speak with me, he can make a reservation like a normal customer. Ricardo disappeared, reappeared 90 seconds later. He made a reservation for tomorrow night, table 14. Of course he did. Mia didn't plan to confront him. She planned to be professional, take his order, deliver his food, maintain impersonal courtesy that would make clear whatever had started between them was over. But when she approached table 14 the following evening, when she saw Harrison sitting there with tension in every line of his body, something inside her cracked. Your usual Manhattan? Her voice came out colder than the December wind outside. Mia, we have a new scotch you might enjoy. It's older and more expensive, which seems to be your brand. Please, just let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You went to a gala with your ex-fiancé. It was in the newspaper. Very efficient reconnection with someone from your tax bracket. Harrison's jaw tightened. It wasn't like that. What was it like then? Mia set down his water glass with more force than professionally advisable. Did you accidentally fall into the gala? Did Vanessa accidentally appear at your side? Did your hand accidentally end up on her back? She was at the gala. I didn't know she'd be there. Yes, we spoke because we're adults who move in the same circles. Ignoring her would have caused more speculation. Oh, how terrible for you. The burden of being polite to beautiful ex-fiancés. You're being unfair. I'm being realistic. Mia's voice dropped, conscious of other diners. I'm a waitress, Harrison. She's Vanessa Ashworth Dane. I live in a studio with IKEA furniture. She probably has a house in the Hamptons. I don't care about any of that. Maybe you should. The words came out harder than intended, sharp with fear and insecurity. Maybe you should care that everyone in your world is going to look at us and assume I'm with you for money. That when this falls apart, you'll go back to your empire and I'll still be here, serving people who look at me like furniture. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. She realized she'd raised her voice, that nearby tables had stopped their conversations. She lowered it again, but the intensity didn't diminish. You told me yourself you don't know how to do this, that you're going to push me away. Well, congratulations. Mission accomplished. She turned to leave. His hand caught her wrist. Gentle, not restraining, just contact. The article was wrong. About the exploratory discussions. Vanessa approached me at the gala, asked if we could talk, find closure. I told her no. I told her I was seeing someone else, that I'd moved on, that whatever we had was over 5 years ago. His voice was quiet, intense. The photographer caught us mid-conversation. I touched her back because that's what you do at formal events when extracting yourself from awkward situations without causing a scene. Mia didn't pull away, but she didn't soften either. Why didn't you tell me you were going to the gala? Because I didn't think it mattered. It was a work obligation. I went, made an appearance, left. He released her wrist. I didn't mention it because when I'm with you, I don't want to be Harrison Wolf, CEO. I just want to be Harrison. You don't get to separate those things, Mia said. That's the problem. You can't compartmentalize your life. Put me in one box and your world in another and pretend they'll never intersect. Your ex-fiancé exists. Your obligations exist. Your empire exists. And Her voice broke slightly. I can't compete with any of it. I'm not asking you to compete. Yes, you are. Every time you don't tell me about events or obligations, you're asking me to be okay with existing in the margins of your real life. Harrison stood up, abandoning table 14 mid-service, and guided her to the alcove by the coat check where they could speak without an audience. You're right, he said simply. About all of it. I've been compartmentalizing. Treating what we have like it's separate from the rest of my life, because that felt safer. But that's not fair to you, and it's not real. He ran a hand through his hair. I don't know how to integrate someone into my life when my life is board meetings and acquisitions and events where everyone wants something. I don't know how to protect you from that world while being honest about it. I don't need protection. I need honesty. Mia's voice was firm. I need to know that when photographers take pictures of you with your ex, you're going to tell me before I see it in the newspaper. I need to know I'm not just some side story you keep separate from your real world. You're not... Harrison stopped, frustration clear. You're the first real thing I've had in 5 years, but I don't know how to bring you into my world without destroying what makes this real. Maybe that's the point, Mia said softly. Maybe the fact that it's difficult is what makes it real. Easy things don't mean anything. They stood close in the alcove, so close she could feel his heat. So far apart, the distance felt insurmountable. Outside, Chicago's Christmas lights blurred through fogging windows. "The Aurelius acquisition closes in 1 week," Harrison said finally. "Monday, there will be press coverage, announcements, restructuring. When that happens, everyone's going to know I own the restaurant where you work. They're going to make assumptions." "I know. I can't change that. I can't protect you from speculation or gossip." "I know. But I can be honest. I can tell you about Gallus before I go. I can introduce you to my world instead of hiding you from it. I can stop treating this like something temporary." He moved closer, his hand cupping her face. "If you're willing to try. If you haven't already decided this is too complicated." Mia closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his palm against her cheek. "I saw that picture and I felt like I was back in Indiana, reading David's letter, realizing I wasn't enough." "You are enough." Harrison's voice was fierce. "More than enough. Vanessa has nothing to do with what I feel for you." "What do you feel for me?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, terrified, hopeful, like I'm standing at the edge of something that could either save me or destroy me. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, like I'd rather risk the destruction than go back to being safe and empty. Mia opened her eyes. "I can't be your secret. If we do this, really do this, I need to be part of your actual life, all of it." "Okay. And you need to tell me things, even uncomfortable things, especially uncomfortable things." "Okay. And if this starts to feel like I'm shrinking myself to fit into your world, I'm out. No negotiation." "Understood." His hand slid to the back of her neck. "Anything else?" "Kiss me." He did. Right there in the alcove, where any server could see, where the compartmentalization finally shattered and what they had became real and visible and dangerous. When they pulled apart, Mia rested her forehead against his chest. "I'm still angry about the newspaper," she murmured. "I know. And scared about the acquisition. Me too. And terrified this is going to end badly." "Same." Harrison's arms tightened. "But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe alone." They stood there while the restaurant hummed around them, while Chicago sparkled beyond the windows, while the last week before Christmas ticked closer with all its promises and perils. And for the first time since the newspaper article, Mia let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could survive what came next. The board meeting happened on a Monday morning in a conference room 43 stories above Chicago, where the December sun turned the city into something crystalline and bright. Mia wasn't there. She was at the Aurelius, prepping for lunch service, trying not to check her phone every 30 seconds for updates she knew wouldn't come. Harrison had texted at 7 a.m. "Meeting starts at 9. I'll call you after. Whatever happens, we're okay." But they weren't okay. Not really. Not yet. Because what Mia hadn't told Harrison, what she'd been carrying like a stone in her chest since the night in the alcove, was that she'd received a job offer. A good one. A writing position at a small literary magazine in Portland, near her brother. Salary, benefits, the chance to actually pursue the dream she'd abandoned when David convinced her she wasn't talented enough. The offer had come 3 days ago. She had until Friday to decide. She hadn't mentioned it because mentioning it meant admitting she was already planning an exit strategy. That some part of her, the part that had learned survival in Indiana, was preparing to run before she could be left behind. "You're doing it again," Rachel said, appearing with coffee cups. "The thing where you fold napkins like you're strangling them." Mia looked down. The linen swan looked like a murder victim. "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar." Rachel set down her tray. "Look, I warned you about Harrison. But I was wrong. He looks at you like you're the only real thing in his world. Whatever's happening, it's real. That's what scares me. Before Mia could respond, Ricardo burst through the doors, panic on his face. Turn on the TV, Channel 7. Now. Thomas grabbed the remote. And there, filling the screen, was Harrison. He stood at a podium in the Aurelius's private dining room, Chicago's skyline behind him, a cluster of uncomfortable executives to his right. Announcement regarding the acquisition of the Aurelius Restaurant Group, the anchor said. Wolf Capital CEO Harrison Wolf personally addressing concerns about restructuring and job security. The camera cut to Harrison. He looked controlled, professional, but Mia could see the tension in his shoulders. I want to address rumors directly, Harrison said. There will be no mass layoffs, no reduction in benefits, no changes to management unless requested by management themselves. He paused, something shifting in his expression. The Aurelius has built its reputation on exceptional service by exceptional people. I acquired these restaurants because I believe in what they represent, and because I believe in the people who make them what they are. One of the executives behind him shifted uncomfortably. Harrison didn't notice, or didn't care. I'm also announcing that I'm stepping back from active management of Wolf Capital's daily operations. I'll remain CEO and primary decision-maker on major acquisitions, but I'm promoting my COO to president and delegating operational oversight. His eyes found the camera. I've spent 15 years building an empire while forgetting to build a life. That ends now. The room around the TV had gone silent. Every server, every cook, every busser had stopped to watch. Finally, I want to address personal speculation in certain media outlets. Harrison's voice was steady. I am in a relationship with someone who works at the Aurelius, someone who has shown me more kindness and courage in weeks than I've experienced in years, someone who sees me as a person, not a portfolio. Oh my God, Rachel breathed. I'm making this statement publicly because I won't have her integrity questioned. I won't have people assume she's with me for access or money or any reason other than the fact that somehow, impossibly, she sees something in me worth caring about. He paused, the CEO armor cracking. Mia, if you're watching this, I need you to know you were right about everything, about compartmentalization, about honesty, about what it means to really choose someone. So I'm choosing you, publicly, completely, in a way that can't be taken back or hidden. The camera zoomed in as Harrison's controlled expression shifted into something more human, more uncertain. I'm scared, he admitted. Scared I'll mess this up, that I'll hurt you in ways I can't predict. But I'm more scared of losing you, of going back to a life where everything is efficient and nothing is real. His voice dropped. You asked me what I feel for you. I feel like I'm finally learning what it means to be alive instead of just successful. And He stopped, took a breath. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper, but the microphone caught it. I love you. I'm in love with you. And I know it's too soon. And I'm probably doing this wrong. But I needed to say it. Publicly. So you'd know this isn't something I'm keeping in the margins. You are my life, the most important part of it. The press conference continued, but Mia couldn't hear it over the roaring in her ears. Her phone buzzed. Harrison, I'm sorry I didn't warn you. I needed to do this before I lost my courage. I'm coming to the restaurant now. Please don't leave. She stared at the words, at the vulnerability wrapped in a text message from a man who'd just declared his love on live television. Mia? Rachel's voice seemed far away. Are you okay? Was she okay? A billionaire had just told Chicago he loved her, had restructured his company, made himself vulnerable in front of cameras and colleagues, risked his reputation, all for her. David had made her feel small. Harrison made her feel seen. David had asked her to shrink. Harrison was asking her to stay exactly as she was. David had hidden her. Harrison had just claimed her in front of the world. "Go," Thomas said, smiling. "Go talk to him. We'll cover your tables. But service will survive." Rachel was already untying Mia's apron. "Go, before you overthink yourself out of something good." Mia grabbed her coat and pushed through the doors. She nearly collided with Harrison in the entrance. He was still in his suit from the press conference, slightly disheveled, his expression caught between hope and terror. Behind him, through the glass doors, a news van was pulling up. "I should have asked you first," Harrison said immediately, before making that statement. "I should have warned you, given you a choice. I couldn't stand you believing you were something I was hiding, and I knew if I didn't do it immediately, I'd talk myself out of it." Mia kissed him. Right there in the entrance, with servers watching and a news crew filming from the sidewalk and Chicago's winter light pouring through the glass, she kissed him with everything she had. All her fear and hope, and the terrifying realization that she loved him too. When they pulled apart, Harrison's hands framed her face. "I love you," he said again, quieter, just for her. "I should have said it on the rooftop, should have said it in the alcove, but I was scared, and I'm still scared. But I love you more than I'm scared. I love you too." The words felt weighted with truth. "And I'm terrified. And I have a job offer in Portland that I haven't told you about because part of me was still planning an exit strategy." Harrison's expression flickered. Hurt, then understanding. "Portland. A literary magazine. Writing position. Everything I thought I wanted." Her hands rested on his chest. "I've been carrying the offer for 3 days, trying to decide. You should take it." His voice was steady despite the pain in his eyes. "If it's what you want, if it's your dream, I won't be the reason you give up something important. That's the problem. I don't know if it's what I want anymore." Mia looked up at him. 3 weeks ago, it would have been everything. But now I think maybe I was running toward Portland for the wrong reasons. Not because I wanted to be there, but because I wanted to be anywhere that felt safe. Now I think I need to stop running. You just told Chicago you love me. You gave up control of your company because you'd rather have a life than an empire. You chose me in the most public way possible." Her voice cracked. "So I think I need to stay and see what happens when I choose someone who chooses me back." Harrison's arms came around her, pulling her close. "I'm still going to mess this up sometimes," he murmured against her hair. "I know, and I'm going to be too defensive and too quick to assume the worst." She pulled back to see his face. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need to be perfect. We just need to be honest." "Honest." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "I can do honest. The board is furious. My mother called 17 times, and I have no idea how to be in a relationship that isn't based on contracts and negotiations." Despite everything, Mia laughed. "I have no idea either. I've never dated someone who makes declarations on live television. So we'll figure it out together." Together. Mia tested the word. I like the sound of that. Through the windows, the news crew was filming. Inside, servers were watching. But in this moment, standing in the entrance with snow starting to fall and Christmas lights reflecting in the glass, Mia felt something she hadn't felt in years. Home. Not a place. Not a building. But the feeling of being chosen, being seen, being loved for exactly who she was. "So," Harrison said, "what happens now?" Mia looked up at him, at the man who'd been arrogant and closed off until he wasn't, until he'd let her see beneath the armor. "Now," she said. "We figure out how to do this. The messy, complicated, terrifying thing where two broken people try to be whole together. Sounds inefficient. Sounds perfect." And in the snow globe stillness of a Chicago December, with their future uncertain and terrifying and full of possibility, they held each other and chose to stay. The board of Wolf Capital called an emergency meeting 3 days before Christmas. Harrison received the summons at 6 a.m., a formal letter delivered by courier to his penthouse, the kind of old-fashioned power play that meant serious trouble. Mia was still asleep in his bed, her dark hair spread across his pillow, one hand curled under her cheek, in a gesture so vulnerable it made his chest ache. The letter was succinct. Emergency board session. Thursday, 9 a.m. Your presence is mandatory. The future of Wolf Capital will be determined. Mia stirred, her eyes opening slowly. What time is it? Early. Harrison set the letter aside, pulling her closer. Go back to sleep. You're tense. I can feel it. She propped herself up, studying his face. What's wrong? He should protect her from this, but they'd promised honesty. The board called an emergency meeting. They're going to try to force me out. Mia sat up fully. They can do that. If they have enough votes. I'm majority shareholder, but not by much. If they convince enough stakeholders that I'm compromised, that I'm making decisions based on emotion rather than profit. He didn't finish. Because of me. Mia's voice was flat. Because you stepped back from operations. Because you made that statement. Because I chose something that can't be quantified on a balance sheet. Harrison pulled her back down. They think I've lost my edge, that I'm no longer capable of ruthless decision-making. Have you? The question hung between them. Harrison considered it honestly. Yes, he said finally. I'm not the same person I was a month ago. I don't want to be. That person was effective but empty. I'd rather be whole than ruthless. Mia was quiet, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. What happens if they vote you out? I lose the company, lose control of 15 years of work, probably lose a significant portion of my net worth in legal battles. He caught her hand, pressed it against his heart. But I keep you, and that math works out in my favor. Harrison, I mean it. Whatever they decide, whatever I lose, it's worth it if it means I get to keep this. Keep you. She kissed him then, slow and deep. When she pulled back, her expression was determined. I'm coming with you. To the board meeting? Absolutely not. Why not? Her eyes flashed. They're making decisions about your life because of me. I should be there. It's a closed session. Shareholders and board members only. Then I'll wait outside. But I'm not letting you face this alone. Her voice softened. You've been standing alone in rooms full of enemies your entire life. Let me stand with you, even if it's just on the other side of the door. Harrison looked at her and felt something like hope mixed with terror. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. Thursday morning arrived cold and bright. They took Harrison's car through downtown in silence, Mia holding his hand the entire way. The Wolf Capital building was a monument to glass and steel, 63 stories of architectural intimidation. Harrison had chosen every detail when he'd built it 7 years ago. The severe lines, the absence of warmth, the message that this was a place where emotions had no currency. Now, walking through the lobby with Mia beside him, it felt like entering enemy territory. The board meeting was on the 62nd floor. 12 board members sat around the table. His mother was there too, in the corner, her expression carefully neutral. At the head sat Richard Thornton, the lead independent director and Harrison's closest thing to a nemesis. 72 years old, 3 decades of crushing companies and careers. No patience for sentiment. Harrison. Thornton's voice could have frozen Lake Michigan. Sit. Harrison remained standing. I prefer to stand. A muscle ticked in Thornton's jaw. Your behavior over the past 2 weeks has been erratic and unprofessional. You've made a public spectacle of a personal relationship. You've restructured without board approval. You've prioritized sentiment over strategy in the Aurelius acquisition by guaranteeing jobs that cut into profits. Those guaranteed jobs ensure operational continuity and prevent turnover that would damage long-term profitability, Harrison countered. It's sound business. It's emotional decision-making disguised as business. Thornton leaned forward. You're compromised. This woman, this waitress, has clouded your judgment to the point where you're no longer capable of making difficult decisions. Harrison's hands clenched. Maya Sullivan's profession is irrelevant to her character or our relationship, but not to her influence on you. You've been different since you met her, softer, more concerned with optics than maximizing shareholder value. Thornton pulled out a folder. We've compiled decisions you've made in the past month that demonstrate questionable judgment. The Aurelius overpayment, the sudden restructuring, the public declaration that made us a target for mockery. The pattern is clear. Harrison picked up the folder, scanned it. Every decision was there, annotated with alternatives that would have been more profitable, more ruthless. Let me be clear, Thornton continued. We're prepared to call a vote of no confidence. If it passes, and we have the votes, you'll be removed as CEO. Operations will be transferred to someone who makes decisions based on logic rather than romance. You're threatening to strip me of my own company. We're saving it from your compromised judgment. Thornton's expression didn't waver. You built Wolf Capital by being ruthless, by making hard choices, by prioritizing success over sentiment. Your father understood that. He'd be ashamed of what you've become. The words hit where intended. Harrison thought of his father. Cold, calculating, successful, and dead alone at his desk. My father, Harrison said quietly, died alone, without family, without friends, without a single person who mourned him as a person rather than a source of wealth. Is that the model you think I should follow? It's the model that built this company. Then maybe this company needs to be built differently. Harrison set the folder down. For 15 years, I've run Wolf Capital according to my father's principles: ruthlessness, efficiency, the belief that caring about people is weakness. And it worked. We're worth billions. We've crushed competitors. We've maximized every metric of traditional success. He paused. And I was miserable. Every single day. Empty and angry and so disconnected from my humanity that I'd forgotten what it felt like to care about anything beyond the next acquisition. Sentiment doesn't generate profit, but it generates purpose. Harrison's voice was steady. I've changed. Yes. I'm making decisions based on something other than pure profit maximization. Yes, I'm in love with someone who has no interest in my net worth. You're right. That makes me different. But not compromised. Clearer. More focused on building something that matters beyond quarterly earnings. He looked around the room, meeting each board member's eyes. So call your vote. Try to remove me. Maybe you'll succeed. But if you do, I'm taking my shares and starting over, building a new company based on the principle that success and humanity aren't mutually exclusive, and I'm betting that company will destroy whatever remains of Wolf Capital after you strip out everything that gave it purpose. Thornton's face reddened. You're bluffing. I'm not. I'll walk away from all of it today if the alternative is going back to being the person I was a month ago. That person had $3 billion and nothing worth having. I'd rather have less money and something real. Something real. Thornton's voice dripped contempt. You mean that waitress? You're willing to destroy everything for some girl you've known 3 weeks. Harrison's jaw tightened. Her name is Mia. And yes, she's part of why I've changed. But this is bigger. This is about what kind of man I want to be. Whether I'm going to pursue efficiency or meaning. Meaning doesn't pay dividends. No, but it makes life worth living. The room erupted. Board members arguing, voices rising. Harrison stood calm and certain. His mother finally spoke, her voice cutting through the noise. You sound like you're in love. Everyone fell silent. Harrison turned to face her. I am in love, he said simply. For the first time in my life, I'm in love with someone who sees me as a person instead of a portfolio. And yes, that's changed me, for the better. His mother studied him. Then, your father would hate this, everything about it. The declaration, the restructuring, the prioritization of personal connection over profit. She paused. He'd hate it because it's exactly what he was too afraid to do himself. Harrison stared. Mom, I stood by your father for 40 years while he built an empire and lost himself. Watched him become what success demanded and nothing that happiness required. Her voice was quiet but steady. I won't watch you make the same mistake. If Mia makes you something other than your father, that's the best investment you'll ever make. She stood. I vote to keep Harrison as CEO. Unchanged authority. No restrictions. She looked at Thornton. Call your vote, Richard. The vote was 7-5. Harrison kept his position. When he walked out 20 minutes later, Mia was exactly where she'd promised, waiting in the chairs outside. She looked up, and he saw in her expression that she'd heard everything through the glass walls. So, Mia said, standing, you just risked your entire empire. For meaning. For humanity. For you, Harrison finished. For us. For the chance to be someone worth being. She walked into his arms, and he held her, while downtown Chicago hummed around them. Your mother voted for you, Mia said against his chest. I know. I've been underestimating her for 35 years. Harrison? Yeah? I'm proud of you. Her voice was soft but fierce. I'm so proud I can barely breathe. He pulled back to see her face, to catch the tears in her eyes, the smile that made his chest ache. Take me home, Mia said. It's almost Christmas. Let's go home. So they did. Away from the glass tower, away from board meetings and votes, into the bright December cold where Chicago was preparing for Christmas, and they were preparing for whatever came next. Together. Christmas Eve arrived wrapped in snow and silence. Harrison's penthouse had been transformed, not by a designer or decorator, but by them, Mia and Harrison together, over the past 3 days. A modest tree in the corner, decorated with ornaments from the dollar store because Mia insisted expensive decorations missed the point. String lights draped across the windows. Stockings hung from the mantel, one monogrammed cashmere, one from Target with Harrison's name stitched in wonky letters. The contrast was absurd and perfect. Mia stood at the window now, looking out at Chicago dressed in its winter best. The city glittered below, Lake Michigan dark and infinite to the east, lights spreading west like fallen stars. Snow fell in soft curtains, muffling sound, making the world feel small and intimate despite the vastness visible from 60 stories up. Behind her, Harrison moved in the kitchen, making hot chocolate. Not the expensive artisanal kind, but Swiss Miss from packets, made with milk, marshmallows melting on top. Because she'd mentioned once, casually, that it was her favorite. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a waitress serving a man she'd never imagined talking to. Now she was in his home, wearing his Columbia sweatshirt, planning a future that terrified and thrilled her equally. Penny for your thoughts. Harrison appeared beside her, 2 mugs in hand, careful not to spill the marshmallow mountains. Just thinking about how fast things change. Mia accepted the mug, warming her hands. A month ago, I was running from my past. Now I'm running toward your future? Something like that. She sipped the chocolate, smiling at the too sweet perfection. The magazine called yesterday. Portland. Harrison's expression carefully didn't change. And? I turned them down, officially. Mia set her mug on the windowsill. I told them I'd found something in Chicago worth staying for. That I was building a life here instead of running to the next safe place. Mia, let me finish. She took his free hand. I also applied to 3 graduate programs, creative writing MFA, 2 in Chicago, 1 in Evanston. I don't know if I'll get in, but I figured it was time to stop telling myself I wasn't talented enough and actually find out. She paused. You helped me see that I'd been making myself small because it felt safer than risking failure. Harrison set down his mug and pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. You're going to get in. All 3 programs are going to fight over you. You don't know that. I know you. That's enough. They stood in the window, wrapped around each other, while snow continued to fall and Chicago breathed beneath them. Christmas music drifted up from somewhere, instrumental, soft, making everything feel like a snow globe. I talked to my brother yesterday, Mia said quietly. Told him about you, about us. How'd that go? He threatened to fly here and verify you're not an elaborate con artist. She smiled against his shoulder. Also said he's never heard me sound this happy. It's good for me too. Harrison's arms tightened. I called my mother last night. Had a real conversation for the first time in a decade. Yeah? Told her I was sorry. For not seeing her clearly. For assuming she was just an extension of my father, when really she'd been surviving him the same way I was. His voice roughened. She cried, and she said she was proud of me. For choosing differently. For being brave enough to want something more than success. Mia pulled back to see his face, seeing the wetness in his eyes, the vulnerability he no longer tried to hide. Harrison Wolfe, ruthless CEO, reduced to tears by his mother's approval. It's embarrassing. It's beautiful. She kissed him softly. You're beautiful. They migrated to the couch, the expensive Italian leather one that Mia had covered with blankets and pillows until it felt actually livable. She curled into his side, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. I got you something, Harrison said after a while. For Christmas. Harrison, we said no gifts. I know. I got you something anyway. He reached behind the cushion, producing a small box wrapped in paper that had clearly been wrapped by someone who'd never done it before. The corners didn't match. The tape was excessive. Mia loved it immediately. You wrapped this yourself. YouTube tutorial. Took 7 attempts. He handed it to her nervously. You don't have to open it now. She was already tearing the paper. Inside was a velvet box. She opened it slowly, her breath catching. A necklace. Simple. Elegant. A silver pendant shaped like a pen, detailed and beautiful, hanging from a delicate chain. It's... Her voice broke. Harrison, you said you wanted to be a writer, that you were trying to find your voice again. His hand came to the back of her neck. I wanted you to have something that reminded you that you are a writer, that you've always been one, that David was wrong, and you were always enough. Mia couldn't speak. Harrison lifted the necklace, fastening it around her neck with careful precision. There's an engraving, he said quietly, on the back. She lifted the pendant, tilting it to catch the light. In tiny script, your voice matters. H. The tears came then, fast and hot. Mia pressed her face into Harrison's chest and cried. For every year she'd spent silent, for every time she'd made herself small, for the gift of being seen by someone who believed in her. Hey. Harrison's hand stroked her hair. It's okay. I love you. The words came out muffled and wet, and absolutely true. I love you so much it's terrifying. I love you too. His arms tightened. More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. They stayed like that for a long time. Eventually, Mia pulled back, wiping her eyes, laughing at herself. I got you something too, she admitted. It's not expensive or fancy. I don't care. Whatever it is, I'll love it. She retrieved it from her bag, wrapped in newspaper comics because that felt more authentic. Harrison opened it carefully, revealing a leather-bound journal, well-worn and clearly second-hand. It's used, Mia said quickly, from a vintage bookstore. But look, she opened it. The journal was filled with writing from decades ago. Daily observations, moments of beauty noticed and preserved, the small human details that made life worth living. I thought, Mia hesitated, you spend so much time thinking about efficiency and strategy. I wanted to give you something that celebrated small moments, the days that don't matter to anyone but you. The life you're building that isn't about profit margins. Harrison turned the pages slowly, reading entries from 1967, from someone whose name they'd never know. It's perfect, he said quietly. The most perfect thing anyone's ever given me. Really? Really? He looked up at her. Thank you. For this. For staying. For choosing me when you had every reason to run. Thank you for being worth staying for. They spent the rest of Christmas Eve the way people in love spend holidays, talking and laughing and sitting in comfortable silence. They cooked dinner together, pasta and salad and $12 wine. They watched a Christmas movie, argued about whether Die Hard counted, fell asleep on the couch tangled together while snow fell outside. When Mia woke, it was after midnight, technically Christmas. Harrison was watching her with an expression so tender it made her chest ache. Merry Christmas, he whispered. Merry Christmas. She touched the pendant at her throat. What are you thinking about? That 3 weeks ago, I was sitting alone at table 14, convinced I was fine. That efficiency was the same as happiness. That success meant not needing anyone. He brushed hair from her face. And then you refused to be intimidated by me, and everything changed. Everything? Everything that matters. Harrison pulled her closer. I used to measure my life in acquisitions and profit margins. Now I measure it in moments that make me feel human. And you make me feel more human than I've felt in my entire life. Mia kissed him then, slow and deep and full of promise. I'm still scared, she admitted, that this won't last. Then we'll work to keep it. We'll have hard conversations and make compromises and choose each other every day until it becomes habit. His hand cupped her face. Love isn't the absence of fear, Mia. It's the decision to face it anyway, together. Outside, Chicago settled into Christmas morning. And in a penthouse 60 stories above it all, two people who'd been broken in different ways held each other and chose hope over safety, vulnerability over armor, love over the efficiency that had kept them hollow for too long. Stay, Harrison whispered. I'm not going anywhere, Mia whispered back, and she meant it. Not just for Christmas, but for the hard days too. For the moments when old wounds resurfaced. For the work of building something real. She meant it forever. As snow fell and Chicago dreamed beneath them, Mia Sullivan and Harrison Wolfe held each other in the soft glow of Christmas lights and chose to believe in something neither had thought possible, that they were worth choosing, that they were enough. That love, messy and terrifying and real, was worth every risk. In the end, this isn't just about a billionaire and a waitress or even Christmas in Chicago. It's about the courage to stop performing the version of yourself that keeps you safe and start living as the person you actually are. About understanding that the walls we build to protect us from pain are the same walls that keep us from connection. Harrison spent 15 years building an empire while losing himself. Mia spent years making herself smaller to fit someone else's expectations. What saved them wasn't money or status. It was the choice to show up honestly, to risk being seen, to believe they were worth choosing, even when fear whispered they weren't. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. You just need to be real. Brave enough to stop running from your wounds and start healing them. To understand that the person who sees your damage and stays isn't rescuing you. They're choosing to build something real alongside you. If this journey moved you, if it made you think about the walls you've built and whether they're still serving you, if it reminded you that vulnerability isn't weakness, but the truest form of courage, leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments. Tell me which moment resonated most. And if you believe some stories don't just entertain but illuminate the path toward becoming who we're meant to be, subscribe, because there are more journeys ahead, more broken people learning to be whole, more stories about choosing love over safety, connection over armor, meaning over the illusions we've been taught to chase. The next story is waiting, and it might be exactly what you need to hear.